Welcome, everybody. I am so glad to see you all here. My name is Sonia Simone, and we are going to talk today about raising your rates. This is one of those things that holds people back as service providers. So, specifically, I'm talking to folks who do provide services, and this can be anything from copywriters to graphic designers to even, therapists and all different kind of service providers. Course creators, if you've got especially an online course in any kind of digital business. Content creators who have been building that audience. You might know me back from the copy blogger days, but you have not yet converted that audience into business, into revenue. And also my burned out freelancer friends, my feast or famine friends. I feel your pain, been there, spent lots and lots of time there. So we're going to talk to all of us about what it means to change our rates. So I want to invite you to think about why it takes us so long. Why does it take us so long to go into pop the website open and change the number, right? Add a 0 to the number. And there are 4 reasons, and we're going to talk more about what those reasons are. And we're going to, kind of return back to them again and again. The first one is you have not made the sale to yourself. I got this phrase from my colleague, Pamela Wilson, and it's really about there's part of you that thinks I would never buy this for this price. I want to invite you to think about that for a moment. You would say, well, I would never pay, let's say, $15,000, $20,000 for web copy. Well, you're a copywriter. So no, you probably wouldn't. You might, but maybe you wouldn't because that is something that comes natural to you. It is not something that comes naturally to your clients, and more to the point, it is not something they have the time, the energy to really do well. The other thing that keeps us from raising our prices is we don't have the right client type. So we are talking to a client who might be a wonderful person, but they're not the kind of client who a higher rate card works for them. Another reason is you get off the path with distractions. You have a million things you could do. You have a million things you want to do. You keep chasing down rabbit holes. I am a professional rabbit hole chaser. I feel your pain. I understand. But the more things we try, the fewer things we get done. And then I would say the final reason that, or, a final reason we don't raise our rates is we're getting to that space of, I tried that once. I tried to raise my rates and it didn't work and I couldn't sell it and I got frustrated and it feels bad. It feels bad to get frustrated. It feels bad to get disappointed. And so I just didn't. I rolled it back to the old pricing and I kept going. So we will speak to all of these today. So I want to talk about, you will get advice from, people who do what I do for a living, right? Business coaches, marketing coaches. Just add a 0. Just pop into your website and put a 0 on it and close, click save. And on some level, there's often some truth to that. A lot of us could do that, but you haven't. So we're going to talk about why you haven't and some of the mental work that it takes to get there. But I want you to stop and just think for a minute. Think about your current engagement. So let's say the most recent package that you sold, or the most recent engagement that you sold, or course, or whatever your offer is. If you did add a 0 to it, I want you to think for just a few seconds, what would that feel like? What would happen? A lot of people feel a little freaked out when they think about that. So you can drop into the chat of the live stream if you feel like it. What happens if the money fairy waved her magic wand? What would change? So typically, right, we would have more options. We would have more free time. We would have more nice things, right? We could, maybe we would upgrade something, a car, clothes, whatever. We would make a few nice purchases. And I think most of all, we would have more confidence. It would feel good to be working at that higher level. So I want to talk about, I promised you all when we did the promotion for this, the weird hidden benefit of higher rates. And I want to talk about that. And we all know that raising our rates is going to make us more money, right? That's the point, right, of doing the exercise. There's two odd things that happen when you open up your rate card and you tick that up. One of them is you'll often find that your offer is easier to sell, which is really weird. And I think the reason for that is when we click it up to that next level, we offer a more valuable transformation. And it's easier for people to say yes to something that's really going to be meaningful. The kinds of people you want to work with are tired of trying to solve their problem one $17 ebook at a time, $197 course at a time. They need something more potent, more powerful. The other weird hidden benefit of raising your rates is that on average, it's not always true. People who come into your programs at that higher level are often lower maintenance, which is very strange. So the lower the price, the higher maintenance your client gets. It's the oddest thing, but the people who are, let's say, really, really price conscious, and they really, wrestle with the price, they also just tend to need more hand holding. It's often correlated in a strange way with maybe not getting you what you need, the materials that you need, not getting you if you need materials from them to start the project, they're late getting them to you. So all kinds of, it's for whatever reason, higher rates often correlates to a little bit lower maintenance clients. And that's not to say that people with more money to spend are great people and people with less money to spend are not good people. Not saying that in any way at all, but it is an interesting correlation. And every experienced freelancer I know has seen that in action. The folks you give a great price to end up being 3 times the work, which is just a strange thing that happens. All right, so here's how we're going to do this rate changing thing. And I will put a few of these high-level notes into our replay notes at the bottom of the video and the replay so you can have them for reference. The first thing that we do when we raise our rates is we change the value. So again, a lot of coaches are very into just create a high ticket offer. And high ticket is fine, but high value beats high ticket every day. So increase the value of the offer that you're making. That is typically done by increasing the transformation. So you're going to work with people on a deeper level, a more profound level. You're going to solve a higher quality problem. When you solve a higher quality problem, that has a higher price tag attached to it. So let's talk a little bit about some specifics. Before I talk about how to make your offer more valuable, I want to talk about what we all try and do. Don't do this, please, which is make these radical shifts in direction. I'm going to get an MBA. I'm going to get another certification. I'm going to go to coaching school for 3 years to get an ADHD certification, whatever it is. I'm not anti-certifications. I'm not anti-MBA, but you need to get out of that habit of thinking that you can charge more when you have become more valuable by doing something external. So most of my folks, I don't attract a lot of folks who are just out of high school. You're not just out of high school, you're not just out of college, you're not just getting started in your field. You have a lot of expertise that you have already created, a lot of value you have already learned how to create. So instead of doing these pivots, because every time you pivot, every time you add another certification, another degree, another whatever it is, you're adding, you're slowing yourself down. You're changing direction. Every time we change direction, we lose momentum. So you don't need another pivot. You don't need to pivot, necessarily into a whole new client type. Although that's actually a better idea than pivoting what you actually do for a living. You already know how to do what you do. Now, it may be that you need a second set of eyes. You might need another person to come in and say, out of the things you do, out of the services you provide, these are really like, this is where you really provide value. This is where you really provide something special. So that second pair of eyes, that can be a coach, that can be a mastermind, that can be another, a colleague, an affiliate partner, something like that. I would advise against using family members unless that family member is really in the business with you and they know what you do. Your mom loves you and thinks you're amazing, but your mom does not necessarily understand what you do in your business. So get somebody who really knows what you do in your business. So provide value by leaning in on the kinds of really valuable transformations you already make for clients, and get somebody to give you the mirror if you don't, if you have a hard time with this, and most of us do. So another key, I've talked about this before. I talked about this when Pamela Wilson and I were live about a month ago, is creating a framework. So here's what people who spend more money are looking for. They're not necessarily looking for the world's most impeccably designed website, although good design is an important part of good presentation. Great clients, people who have more money to spend, want to know you've got this handled. They want to know they can come to you with a high quality problem and you have what it takes to solve their high quality problem. And so processes and frameworks are incredibly beneficial to giving that client that sense of reassurance. That client knows you've got this because you have a framework, it's laid out. I always think it's a really good idea to name your framework. Is your framework entirely unique to you? Probably not. You know who creates completely unique frameworks no one has ever seen before? Scam artists, right? We can always make something up. It's trivially easy to make something up. It's much trickier to pull together best practices, your own wisdom, your own experience into a framework that is yours, but that does not mean you are not reinventing the wheel. Copywriters, there are foundational best practices in copywriting, foundational best practices in graphic design and therapy and coaching and consulting and all the things. So you do not have to be a unicorn, but you do want to put your methodology together for all the facets of your how clients work with you. The more systematic you are, the more money you are worth, because then you spend your time solving problems instead of spending your time like trying to get organized. Okay, the other key to creating more value, when you create a higher value transformation that comes with a higher price tag, is solving a higher quality problem. So, for example, just an example everybody has seen, a nice dress, let's say a nice dress that you would buy and put on your body, solves the problem of you would like to look nice, you would like to feel confident, comfortable. Maybe you'd like to be comfortable. So you go to a store, you buy a dress. The dress solves the problems of feeling nice and looking nice and being confident. A wedding dress solves a higher quality problem. A wedding dress solves that problem in a much higher stakes situation. If you feel like you don't feel good and you don't feel cute and you don't feel confident in your wedding dress, the stakes are much higher than they are if you just bought a dress. You thought it was cute when you tried it on, you wore it, you changed your mind, maybe you return it. So higher stakes come with higher quality problems. Solving problems for people. I have a really brilliant client. She does accent reduction. Accent reduction is when you coach somebody so that they are more easily understood in the target language. Her target language is English. It's very important. Accent reduction solves a really important problem. Communication is one of the most important things we do as a species. She's been experimenting with moving to doing accent reduction in for medical organizations, because as important as communication is, communication in a life or death situation, the stakes are higher. That's a higher quality problem, commands more money. She happens to have a background working, in the medical environment, so she already has a lot of what she needs to climb that tier a little bit. So that leads us to our second kind of high level way to raise our rates, and that is to change your buyer. So some buyers need a more, accessible price point, and some buyers are looking for a higher price point because, again, they want to work with somebody more experienced. They have a problem where the stakes are higher. They, we talk about that expression, you get what you pay for. A lot of people believe that, which means when you price lower, you send a message that there is a lower quality service. That is just an illusion. That is not really true. Plenty of high quality providers are not charging what they're worth. But when you attach a lower price tag to your offer, you also attach a signal of lower quality. It's not fair, it's not reasonable, but it's how things work. And this is not necessarily about working with rich people. I mean, I've had people email me and say, like, I'd like to raise my prices, but I just hate the idea of just working with rich people, which I can get. I mean, if you think that, like, you can't make more revenue unless your customer is Elon Musk or Gwyneth Paltrow or whatever, I could see being a little reluctant, right, to do that. But serving clients at a higher level and at a deeper level is not at all necessarily just working with rich people. So obviously you need to find somebody who has budget, right? I mean, that is part of it, but you can look to organizations. A lot of times businesses have more budget to spend than individuals do. So sometimes you can change what you're doing. Pamela had a participant in the Offer Accelerator a year or two ago. She was a professional organizer, and she was trying to sell this like $17 ebook. It just wasn't happening. She went through the Offer Accelerator program, and instead of trying to sell a $17 ebook to somebody who honestly was going to buy it and then not use it to get their closet cleaned, she switched to teaching organizers to be professional organizers for affluent customers in affluent neighborhoods. That program is like $10,000, not $17. And it's easier to sell, which is the weirdest part. Because instead of just having a clean closet, or more to the point, not having a clean closet, because you never really open the ebook and do anything, you have an organization business with clear models, much higher level of transformation, higher price tag. So those organizers, they're not necessarily rich people that she's teaching, although those people probably are going to a more affluent customer. but she's going from just a consumer, casual kind of transformation to helping somebody launch a proven business. And another thing, and there are a lot of ways to find a better buyer, but the other one that I notice a lot of folks wrinkle their nose and they don't want to do it, but it is a good way to go, is to specialize. Specialists get paid more money. You know, a copywriter who works for SaaS, like my friend Summer, writes email for SaaS, particularly startups. She writes email sequences for them. She charges easily 10 to more than 10 times what other email specialists I know charge, because she has a very particular niche. She's really mastered it. She's put the time and the energy. She knows what that takes. She knows what the business drivers are. She knows the whole thing. She's really focused her own education and her own expertise on a particular kind of customer, and she can get great results for them. And so she charges bank for that, and they're happy to pay it because they know this is not her first rodeo. And when you specialize, you're able to give people that sense of certainty that this is not their first rodeo. You also, finally, and just in terms of finding the buyer, really important thing to know is every one of us in this world comes with different things we will spend money on and things we won't spend money on. So for example, I love nice fountain pens. I have bought some nice fountain pens. You can buy fountain pens for $20 that are very, very good quality. They write very well. You can buy fountain pens for $4,000. You can buy fountain pens for $10,000. There exist fountain pens that are $100,000. But that $4,000, $10,000 fountain pen buyer, I'll tell you what they won't pay money for, is they won't spend $30 for information on how to keep their fountain pen working. Because they think that's free on YouTube. I won't pay for that. So that person has money to spend. You need to put yourself where they're spending money. You need to get into the category of things this kind of person will spend on. And, going back to that, I think it's a big mistake that people sometimes make. They think, okay, I'm going to go to a more affluent buyer. That's fine. But more affluent buyers are just as cheap as anybody else on things that do not belong to them in the category of things they will pay for. So you need to understand that buyer. So you understand, here's what they do pay for. Here's what they expect to get for free. I'll give you another example from my own career. I used to do technical consulting, sales consulting for big, major, huge government software installs. It's not uncommon for government agencies and also for businesses to have money they can spend and money they can't spend. Very common in a government setting, they have a budget for training, but they don't have a budget for tech. So what do you do as a software company that works with government agencies? You find out what they have budget for, and then you say, great, we're going to sell you $75,000 worth of training, and we're going to bundle the software in for free. It sounds like a trick. It's not a trick. It's meeting your buyer where they have the money to spend. There's lots of tricks like that. All right, and then our third hack, trick, technique for raising your rates is you gotta clear out the clutter. You have to clear out the clutter in your head, and you have to clear out the clutter in your communication. So, and I have been as guilty of this as the next person, probably more so, going to events and saying, well, I do a little bit of this, but sometimes I do that, and sometimes I do this other thing. Your clarity is your power. So you might do a variety of services. That's the reality. I don't have any problem with you doing a variety of services, but I want you to talk about one. And I want you to talk about the one that's worth some more money. when you are clear about your value, when you are clear about you have a specific high value offer in mind, you know what it is, you know how it works, you know the transformation it creates, you know everything that it entails, and that's what you talk about, and you talk about it all the time because you love it, you're enthusiastic about it, you're excited about it, you love working with the people you work with because they do epic things. Now, can you have a conversation with somebody and then that person says, I'm not ready to take that step. Do you have something that might be more of an introductory step? Then you move to that conversation. That's great. But you don't talk about all the things you do. You talk about the most meaningful thing you do, the thing that creates the most powerful transformation. And then you can adjust that conversation as you need to. If somebody is not quite ready, that might be a step that's just not where they are in this journey. Something I talked about on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago was an insight that resonated for me when I was thinking about it, which is that as owners, as founders, as business people, we're and people. We love complexity. We want to learn more. We want to find new techniques. We want to add. The kind of person who goes into this is the kind of person who likes to say yes and. But when we are in the mode of buyers, when we are ready to make a purchase, we switch to or people. We're not looking for a million possibilities. We're looking to narrow down our possibilities to the thing that's going to solve the problem we're trying to solve with this cash that we have in our hand. So when you are talking to people with your and hat on and this and that and the other and the rest, you are completely overwhelming somebody when they are in an or frame of mind. So simplifying your message is so important. And there are a million ways to do that. And I don't want to overcomplicate your day right now. We will talk about that in future sessions, and definitely drop in the chat if you want to talk about ways to do that. But really think about simplifying what you are focusing on, both in your own head and in what you are communicating on your site. All right. I want to keep this kind of compact. And I also want to let you know about a resource that you might want to take advantage of. I'm going to try to share my screen again, and we'll see if the Zoom gods like it. And if not, we'll just do it one-on-one like we're doing right now. But let's talk about those reasons that you have not raised your prices yet, because I want to circle back to those. I really want you to think about how this is playing out in your own business, in your own website, in your own communication. All right, let me just see if it likes my world. All right, I'm going to let that kind of cook for a minute there, and we'll talk about that. So you haven't made the first sale to yourself. That's the big one. On some level, you don't think you're worth it. The solution to that is usually a second pair of eyes. It's a coach, a mastermind, a business partner, somebody who is your champion, who does know what you're worth, who does embrace what you're worth, and they can say, yeah, I know it's obvious, like it seems obvious to you, but this thing you do for other people is incredibly hard and it's really incredibly valuable. All right. The second, that's not going to happen. The second reason is you're talking to the wrong people. You're talking to people who don't have the money. You're having lots of conversations with clients who just don't have budget for that. Not because there's anything wrong with them. They just don't have the budget for that. If you don't talk to people with budget, you can't raise your rates. The third reason is that you have chased down every rabbit hole. You keep thinking, I'm going to get more certifications. I'm going to learn a new skill. I'm going to do something different. And you've burned all of your momentum chasing distractions. And then the final reason that we don't raise our rates is we tried it. It didn't work. because it doesn't always work the first time. And we got sad. We don't do it. We won't do that again. Again, you need that champion. You need somebody who can believe in you on the days when you don't. You have a hard time believing in yourself. We are all there. Everybody who's not just, like a narcissist weirdo has days when they just aren't feeling it and they aren't feeling the confidence and you need some help. So I want to talk for just a minute about a program that I lead that is designed to help you get more revenue in your business. Whether you're a freelancer, whether you're a course creator, uh, you're a content creator and you've got the audience, but you don't have the revenue. And it starts with, as a foundation, Stacy, if you could do me the great favor of dropping into the chat the link for people, just offeraccelerator.com, and we'll get that in the show notes. This is really centered around my being your champion, my being that second set of eyes. I think that's the most important thing that we create in this program, is helping you to see yourself as I see you, to see your strengths, to see the way that you create value for your customers, your clients. The other value that we create in this program is a decluttered path. You can do this for yourself. The information is out there. It is on the web. It is on YouTube. It is on Copyblogger. And yet you've already read all that information and you're still stuck, because when the path is so cluttered, it's very hard to declutter it for yourself. So we offer you a path that has been decluttered, a path that has the information you need and does not have the information you do not need. If you go to offeraccelerator.com, you can get all the details. I'm going to walk through them. I'm going to try and keep this to like 40 seconds just so you know what it is. It starts with an intense month, a month of intense questions, all those hard questions that maybe you have not quite answered yet in your business, because they are hard questions. And it's very structured. You've got 1 month of a very, very structured program. You are deeply supported in that work, because it's very hard to do that work when you are not deeply supported in that work. Then you get 6 months of a mastermind style cohort that works with you in this work. So all the hard questions, right? All the hard things to do, finding the right customer, tailoring your offer, getting your sales page written, getting the word out, finding good potential clients, getting it launched. So mastermind style, 6 months, lots of support. My kind of tagline for it is get focused, get supported, get paid. It's a really exciting program. Right now, I co-teach it with Pamela Wilson, who was my colleague at Copyblogger. Starting in, I think, April, it's going to be very much with me. It's kind of one-on-one with steroids. So offeraccelerator.com is the link. And maybe YouTube doesn't let us put links in there, but just offeraccelerator.com, you can get to it. That has a few more details. It also has an application. I will say, sometimes people get to an application and they feel like, oh, that sounds a little scary. I don't know if I want to fill out an application. It's 6 questions. It just lets you get connected with me so we can start a conversation about what you're working on. So drop that in the chat if you would like. Offeraccelerator.com. All right, so that is the program. And if you have any questions about raising your rates, questions about the program, questions about anything else, we have time. Let's do, 3 or 4 minutes for questions. And I'm glad you're willing to just be here with my face all this time. Last time we did this SlideShare worked beautifully, but today it didn't want to do it. That's all right. Good to see you, Lori, Colin. Just drop a question in the chat if you have any kind of questions about what's keeping you from raising your rates. Oh, Mike has a really good one. Changing rates is more challenging with a current longtime customer. Thank you. That's an excellent question. You've got customers now, probably. Let's say you're a copywriter, you're a consultant, whatever you might be. Have the conversation early with your clients. Now, can you 10x your rates? Can you add a zero with existing clients? I don't know, because I don't know your business. Potentially not. What you want to do, there's just a choreography for this. You let your clients know, I'm going to be raising my rates. Let's say in 60 days, I'm going to have new rates. Now is where you have an inflection point. If this client is kind of, you don't really want to keep this client, you can say, I've really loved working with you. I'm going to be serving people at a higher level. And, if the new rate doesn't work for you, I certainly understand that. Let's wrap up our existing projects. And thank you so much for being such a nice client, and just let them go, right? If you want to keep this client, then you can implement a grandfather. You can say, I love working with you so much that what I would like to do is give you an opportunity to grandfather in your next project at the rate we have. And then maybe you get a preferred client rate that's not 10 times higher, maybe it's 25% higher. So you move it up in steps. Now that client may say, I can't do any higher than we're doing now. And you say, I totally get it. Budgets are a thing. It's been such a pleasure. I'm really, I just really enjoyed this time with you. Let me know if that changes. But you can stair step that communication with your existing people. And how much of a grandfather period you give them, it depends on how much you like them. If they're a no-brainer, if they're easy and it's revenue, then yeah, say, I am going to be raising my rates. I love this project so much. We can keep things as they are for 6 months. And then we'll talk about it. Don't give them an infinite grandfather. Give them a time limited amount of time to get used to this idea of paying more money for your services. Some of your clients that you're thinking right now, this person's going to scream, are going to say like, oh yeah, duh, like you're way too cheap. Different people will come in different places, and you can't predict who's going to react how. But how much grandfather you give will depend on how much you like that client. All right. Who else has got a question to drop? Again, I have like a 20-second delay here, so there'll be an awkward pause while I wait for your question. This can be a question about raising your rates, or I like that Mike. Mike says he avoids using these kind of like, oh, inflation is up. I agree with that. I don't think that your justification for raising your prices is the value that you deliver. And you don't necessarily always need a because. Just say, I'm going to be raising my rates starting March 1st. I'm going to be raising my rates effective immediately. That's a complete sentence. Boundaries are good. Boundaries are good. All right. I'm going to give you a few more moments. OfferAccelerator.com is where you can go. Find out a few more details, just get a little more details about how the program is run. And then please feel free to drop an application in. It just opens up a conversation. I'm interested in hearing what you've got going on. If you think that might be too big a step, don't worry about it. I review all of them myself. And if I think that maybe Offer Accelerator might be, that might be too big a step for where you are in business, we can talk about some other options as well. Might be something that would be a better solution for you. I like that. Oliver. Okay, Oliver, once in a while, I kind of excuse myself for raising my rates. Is there a good way to communicate it? You need to practice it a little bit. This is one of the biggest things to practice when you do raise your rates. You have to practice saying it and then putting a period on the sentence and then shutting up. So I used to work with a woman, her name was Paola Forni, and she sold language lessons at Berlitz in Beverly Hills. And she would deliver the presentation, and then she would say, the best part about this is this program only cost $30,000. And this was in the 80s, guys. This was a lot of money. But she was so good at just empathizing with the buyer. The buyer in Beverly Hills had the budget, had the money to spend, no problem. And she could get in that buyer's mental space. And then she just practiced saying, because Paola did not come from a background in which it was like only $30,000 to buy anything. And she was a great inspiration to me. She was a wonderful person. I hope she's out there somewhere living her best life. So you just got to practice it. Empathize with your buyer, empathize with the kind of buyer for whom they have the budget they want to fill, they want to solve their problem, and then just practice it. Get on Zoom with yourself and just practice saying, the best part is, this is the value that is delivered, and the best part of it is, you can get it for only $25,000. And you know that it's going to create, 10 times that in value and transformation for that person. Oh, Lori has a wonderful one. Thank you. Is giving away free samples, let's say a 1-hour webinar covering a month-long paid class topic, a good idea? I think it's a great idea. You just want to put a very firm boundary around it. So again, my colleague Pamela Wilson, who actually was the designer of the Offer Accelerator program, very smart about business. She has for years had what she calls a brown bag lunch, where once a month she talks about a topic for 20 minutes, very much like what we're doing here today. So I think that kind of free sample is a great idea. You just have to be mindful. There's a kind of problem you solve for free. Those are the free kind of problems that people can solve with a fairly minimal investment of their time. Or the first step, the first step to raising your rates is to think about what kind of client has more money to spend and what do they spend money on. But what I would not do is come onto YouTube and walk you through, that 1-month program, like actually do it with you, that 1-month program of raising your rates. That really calls for a deep level of thinking, time, support. It's not suitable for a free offer. So your free offers solve introductory problems, and I love them. And then your paid offers solve deeper level, higher transformation problems. But yeah, I think, content is a free sample, and I love content. All right, Lori, that was a brilliant question. All right, if you have more questions, you're catching this on a replay or the time delay has messed up your brilliant question, just drop it under the video when we get the replay on YouTube. It's YouTube, it's going to live on YouTube forever, or until I get tired of looking at my face in the thumbnail. So drop a question. We might do a future YouTube about it. We might even be able to just answer it right there in the chat. Offeraccelerator.com. I would love to get that conversation rolling with you. The folks that we have now in the program, the quality and the heart and the support and the brains are really, really energizing. So would love to see you there. All right. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Your time, your attention are the most precious things you can give. I really appreciate that. And I look forward to more conversations. Thank you all so much. Take care.